Am I the only one completely obsessed with where Mara Murray went? The disappearance of Mara Murray is one of the most popular disappearances ever, and it's also one of the most baffling. Mara's life was normal, very normal. She grew up in Massachusetts. She had a typical family. She had quite a few siblings, and then her parents divorced as she was growing up. She was a big track star in school and she was happy. She had a lot of friends in school and she succeeded. She was accepted into the military academy at West Point. She studied chemical engineering for 3 semesters. While training at Fort Knox, Mara Murray stole. Yeah, she stole from Fort Knox, which maybe they should change the expression if it's that easy to steal from Fort Knox. It wasn't anything huge. It was a small amount of makeup and it didn't really amount to a whole lot. I don't know if it was from embarrassment or what, but she ended up landing at UMass at Amherst. And she switched to studying nursing. And I don't know if it was embarrassment from all of that or just what she wanted to do, but she switched and she seemed to be pretty happy. But in November of 2003, Mara got in trouble again for stealing. She admitted to taking people's credit card numbers and basically ordering food on them and stealing that way. She confessed to this. She had a mugshot and everything. But the charges were going to go away in about 3 months if she followed the rules and had good behavior. Now hang on, because this is where things get really weird. February 5th, 2004, Mara had a job working security at her dorm and she got a call from her sister. Her sister said they talked about her having a relapse, but it wasn't anything like too major. But a little while after Mara got off the phone, her supervisor found her and she was just out of it. And it really worried him. And when he asked her what was going on, she just cried and said, my sister, my sister. And so he escorted her back to her dorm and she didn't finish her shift that night. Now, trauma is different for everyone, so it could be just that it really affected her to have her sister relapse in this way. But a lot of people point at this that it's like not a huge deal and maybe she was lying to try to either get out of work or start the seeds of what happens next. On February 7th, Mara's dad came to UMass to help her pick out a car. They had a good day together, and then that night he was staying at a hotel and he let Mara borrow his car to take it to a dorm party. Mara borrowed the car. On the way home at 3:30 a.m., she hit a guardrail. This caused quite a bit of damage to her dad's car, and she ended up having to go back to the hotel and tell him what happened. We found out the next day that the insurance was going to cover it. It wasn't like a huge deal. They discussed it. He dropped her back off at school, and she said she'd talk to him Monday. Late Sunday night, we know from records that Mara did some internet searches that were very interesting. She looked up MapQuest details on how to get to Vermont and also looked up some rentals in the New Hampshire area. On Monday, she ended up emailing her teachers and her supervisor at work and told them that she was not going to come back for another week, that she had a death in the family and had to leave town. What's interesting about this is the family has no record of anyone dying or what Mara was even talking about. We also know that Mara packed up her whole dorm room that night, including everything on the walls, and she had printed out an email basically stating that her and her boyfriend were kind of on and off a little bit and were on the rocks at the time. She packed some clothes, her birth control, some textbooks, her phone, things that she would need for like a weekend getaway, and then she left. Around 3:30 on Monday, she drove off the UMass campus. She drove her 1996 Saturn sedan. At about 3:40, she was captured at an ATM withdrawing about $280. Then she is caught on surveillance going to a adult beverage store and picking up some drinks, about $40 worth of drinks. People say that this seems excessive for one person, and I mean, I'm not a drinker, so I don't know, but she picked up this and she seemed to be alone in every camera that she was caught on. The last activity on her phone was at 4:37 when she called her own voicemail, and then after that, nothing. To this day, we don't know where Mara Murray was going or even if she knew where she was going. We don't know her destination. We don't know if she was just driving. We have no clue. Hold on, because it's about to get weirder. At about 7 p.m., this woman hears this large thud outside of her window, and she looks out and realizes there was someone who had had a wreck. It was a one vehicle accident, and it seemed that this person had wrecked into a either pile of snow or a guardrail or drove off the road. Something happened. The car was facing west, but it was in the eastbound lane, so there was an issue. The woman called to report this at about 7:27 p.m. We know now that it was Mara in her car. A little bit after that, a bus driver known as Butch Atwood came driving up in his bus, opened the door, and asked the young lady there if she needed help. Mara said, "No, I already called AAA. Please don't call anybody." She begged him, "Do not call police. Don't call anybody. I'm okay." He then went back to his own house. But he knew that she was lying because there was no reception in that area. And he knew that because he lived literally like a house down. And so he and his wife called 911 to report an accident. That call happened at 7:43 p.m. At 7:37, another passerby said that she saw a police SUV parked behind the car and just assumed everything was okay because the police were there. However, police aren't listed as going to the scene or arriving at the scene until 7:46. I know this may seem stupid, me saying these minutes, but literally she disappeared within minutes. Minutes. People didn't have eyes on her and she was just gone. When police got there, there was no one in or outside of the vehicle. The airbags were deployed. There was adult beverage spilled around inside the car and a little bit outside the car. And there was also a rag in the tailpipe. Missing, along with Mara, were her debit cards, her credit cards, and her cell phone, and they've never been recovered. Some of the alcohol was missing as well, but that was it. Mara and those few things had just vanished. There was a little bit of a search and some search dogs came out. They tracked Mara's scent for about 100 yards east up the road and then it vanished. The boyfriend of hers, the current boyfriend, was interrogated. He was found out to be not involved. He did get a weird voicemail the day that Mara went missing, and it was just like someone crying on the other end. And they realized that this was from a calling card, so they couldn't trace it. In March of 2004, Brianna Matlin disappeared. Her case is so similar, and that one is coming up next, so be on the lookout for that. But police say that they are not connected. However, I'm not sure at this point. This case has been reevaluated and retold about 1 million times over social media. And when this case happened, Facebook was just 5 days old. There was no TikTok, there was no other social media, so people ran wild with it. And there's a lot of theories. So join me for part 2, where we talk about all the theories, all things Mara Murray. And please leave your comments below so that I can include them. And I will be seeing you guys next time, unless I disappear.